Hey everyone, and welcome to the start of another reading vlog. So it is currently Thursday. I have no idea when this video is going to end up going live, but I thought I would start a new reading vlog because I am in a bit of a slump. There are two books that I'm currently in the middle of and I am not enjoying either of them. So I've decided that I'm going to read some romance because you know what, if there's one genre that's going to pull me out of a reading slump, it's romance. So there are 3 romance books that I would like to try and get round to in May, and I'm going to try and read them all in this vlog so I can do a bit of a themed reading vlog. But yeah, the first book that I think I'm going to make a start on tonight, maybe, or tomorrow, is The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. I think this is a fake dating romance about a woman who is invited to her sister's wedding in Spain, and she ends up inviting a guy that she works with who she hates. So I don't really know how that happens, but apparently they pretend to be a couple, and then I'm guessing because it's a romance that they actually end up becoming a couple. So I'm gonna hopefully make a start on that tonight, and then I'll update you on my thoughts and feelings. I know that this is quite big on TikTok, and I've seen mixed reviews. I'm sure that I've seen a lot of people love this book, but then I'm pretty sure that I also recently saw a rant review for it, and I don't remember exactly the details in the rant review. I think that the main criticism that I've seen of this book is that it's unnecessarily long, but yeah, I'm excited to give it a go because I do generally like the fake dating trope. The other 2 books that I'm also planning to read in this vlog are Book Lovers by Emily Henry and The Deal by Elle Kennedy, but I'll tell you more about what those books are about once I actually get to them, because I don't know, I just think that that will be a better way to structure this vlog. This has been the worst intro to a reading vlog ever, but I am stressed and I've had the worst week, so we're just gonna roll with it. So I am now about 70 pages into The Spanish Love Deception, and I don't know yet if this is gonna be the book that's gonna finally drag me out of my reading slump, but it has been quite slow in the beginning. I am enjoying the writing style, and I think I like the characters. We're basically following a main character called Catalina, and she is from Spain originally, but she now lives in, I think it's New York. Her sister's about to get married and Catalina is the maid of honor, and she's told a little lie to her family because her ex-boyfriend is the best man and he's recently announced that he's engaged, and so she's told all of her family that she's going to be bringing her American boyfriend to the wedding, except that she doesn't have an American boyfriend. And so in the very first chapter of this, a guy that she works with called Aaron overhears her telling her best friend at work that she's in a bit of a rubbish situation because she needs to find someone desperately who will go as her +1 to this wedding. This guy Aaron volunteers to go with her, but it feels a little bit random because they hate each other. And so I don't really understand. I mean, I think I do understand why he's volunteered, but it felt a little bit jarring in the beginning. Obviously they don't like each other, and so I don't know, I was just thinking in real life, if there was someone that I worked with who I didn't like and who I thought didn't like me, I don't know how I would react or what I would think about them inviting themselves along. I don't know, it didn't feel like that believable, but I'm willing to roll with it because, like I said, I do quite like the characters so far. It is quite a chunky book. It's like over 450 pages, so hopefully I can finish this before I go to Italy at the end of the week, because I don't really want to take a physical book with me. I'd rather take my Kindle, even though I was thinking actually this would probably be a really good book to read while on holiday, because I'm assuming that they're gonna go to this wedding. I'm pretty sure that's what it says on the back. So yeah, I'm hoping to read a little more tonight and give you another update once I'm maybe about halfway through. So I am now about halfway through The Spanish Love Deception. I think I'm actually on page 200, which is just under halfway, but I'm still enjoying it so far. I think it has been quite a slow build up, but actually that works quite well because this is a very, very slow burn relationship. The first half of this book wasn't what I was expecting it to be. I don't know what I was expecting, but I mean, I'm nearly halfway through and they're not even in Spain yet. So the plot isn't really following what's on the blurb. I don't really want to say what's been happening because I don't know whether that would be a bit spoilery, but it's basically about the two characters getting to know each other and it's building up their relationship, and I do think that the slow burn has been done quite well. I feel invested in the characters, and even though I don't think this is going to be a new favourite romance, I think it's enjoyable. Like, I'm enjoying it and it's fun. The only thing I wanted to mention is that I like the fake dating trope in general. I do tend to like books that have fake dating, but something that does annoy me sometimes is when the characters get a little bit insecure. Is that the right word? Like, they assume that the other person is just going along with things because that was the agreement, and it never even crosses their mind that this other person might actually like them, and it just gets a little bit irritating at times because it's so obvious. I do like Aaron though as a love interest. He feels very what's the word I'm looking for? He's quite bossy and he's quite dominant and very authoritative is, I think, the word that I wanted to use to describe him, and I don't know, it's kind of hot. Forgot to mention this is a single perspective, but it is told in first person point of view, so it's told from Lena's perspective and just her perspective. I think I would have preferred this to be dual perspective. That's just my own personal taste, but like I said, I'm enjoying it and I like Lena. I am interested to see what's going to happen, and I'm probably not going to be able to finish this now before I go to Italy, but hopefully I can update you with my thoughts once I'm back.
Would you be here for me? Never met your parents, not even your mother, but let's see where this leads. What should we do tonight? What if this breaks your little heart in mine? What should we do tonight? Let's just find out. Pretty blue jeans and me, running through evergreen. Pretty blue jeans and me, yeah, she's what I need.
So it's been about 2 days since I got back from Italy and I am still completely exhausted. So if my energy seems a little low in this clip, then that's why. But Italy was amazing. I don't know if I mentioned actually, but I went to Turin to Eurovision, not like the actual stadium, like the arena. We didn't have tickets for the actual final, but there was this Eurovision village where you could go and there was this big field and big screens and you could watch the final from there, and it was free as well. It was held in this little park, not even a little park, it was a big park in Turin, and yeah, it was a really nice weekend actually. It was tiring and my feet are not happy with me just because of the amount of walking that we did, but it was well worth going, and the UK came second, which I don't think anyone was expecting. I did do a little bit of reading while I was away. I think I mentioned actually at the start of this vlog that there were 2 books that I was reading that I wasn't enjoying, and I have finished both of those books now, so I think I'm almost at my reading slump. Now that I've completed both of those books, now that I've finished both of those books, I feel like I'm ready to just mood read for a bit and read books that I'm really enthusiastic about and that I'm excited for. But that leads me nicely onto the Spanish Love Deception, because I did actually end up finishing this and I had mixed feelings on it because the first half of this book was good, but it didn't feel that special or particularly memorable. I was enjoying it, but it wasn't until I think I got to past the halfway point where I really started to feel invested. I really liked the football scene, the soccer scene, that's a bit of a mouthful, but the bit where they're playing soccer, I think think that was the moment where I started to feel like I was really invested. Part of me thinks this book was too long, but I think that actually it worked quite well that this book was that long, because in the first half you get the foundation of the relationship, and then the second half is where things really start to kick up a notch. And I think that it worked well because the relationship was such a slow burn. I think that if we'd gone straight into the second half without any build-up, then it wouldn't have felt realistic. I didn't mind the steamy scenes, but I don't like the name baby when it's used as a term of endearment. It makes me cringe, and I think some of the dialogue in this was just a little bit not my kind of thing. Haven't ran it through core pile yet, but I think this is going to come out as a 4 stars, maybe like a 3.5, but I would recommend it. I think this would be a really good book to read on holiday because most of the book, or half of the book, takes place in Spain. I have also made a start on The Deal by Elle Kennedy. I think I'm actually about halfway through it now because I was reading some of it on the plane home. This follows a main character called Hannah who's in college, and one of the classes that she's taking is an ethics class that's really hard and everyone is failing except for her. It's dual perspective, so you also get the point of view of the love interest who's called Garrett, and he's a hockey player but he's failing this ethics class. So if he doesn't make up his grade, then he's not going to be able to play anymore. So him and Hannah end up striking this deal where she's going to tutor him. Garrett is a little shocked at first because Hannah has no interest in him romantically, which is not what he's used to because he's the captain of the hockey team, and so a lot of girls are falling over themselves to try and date him. Initially, there's that tension between them where they don't really like each other. Eventually, you start to see them become friends, and then it's been hinted that there's other feelings that are going on there. Garrett isn't my personal favourite kind of love interest because he's very overprotective and he's quite controlling actually. So there was one part where Hannah went to the bathroom and he was doing something on her phone without her permission, and she was completely okay with it. But I was thinking, if someone did that to me, I would not be happy. It's weird how sometimes you can read a romance book and completely acknowledge that if that situation were happening in real life, then you wouldn't be okay with it. But somehow it just works in fiction. I am at my boyfriend's at the moment, as you might have been able to tell from my slightly different background, but I'm planning on spending the rest of this afternoon reading The Deal. Like I said, it's so addictive. I think I could probably actually finish it today. Maybe. We'll see how it goes because I do have one more book that I would like to try and get to for this reading vlog. So we'll see how fast I can read, but I do feel like if there's any book that's gonna get me out of a reading slump, then it's this one. So I'm about 70% of the way through now, and I wanted to update you on my thoughts, but my thoughts aren't that different to how they were earlier. I'm still obsessed with this book. I need to put it down now actually because my boyfriend's gonna be home in a bit and we are going to the cinema. But I fully intend on finishing this book tonight because I can't put it down. Help, I don't understand. I don't even think that the writing is anything special, but I like the characters. I think that's probably what it is. I like that there's layers to the characters. For example, Garrett at first comes across as a bit of a player, but then you get to see how he has this softer side and how he's very protective towards Hannah, even though some of the things that he does, I think they're a little overprotective, but it is really sweet. If you are thinking of reading this, then I would recommend checking the trigger warnings beforehand because Hannah went through a lot of trauma when she was a teenager, and you do see her thoughts and you see the effect that that's had on her relationships. So yeah, just something that I did want to mention. So it's now the next day and I finished reading The Deal by Elle Kennedy. Not gonna lie, I'm kind of tempted to give this 5 stars. I don't think I'm gonna. I think I'm gonna give it like a 4 or a 4.5. This was exactly what I was expecting it to be, because let's be honest, with a book like this, you go into it reading it for the smut, and the smut was some of the best smut that I've ever read. But it's not just a smutty romance book. I mean, it is, but there's also a lot more to it than that. There's also a decent plot to balance things out. So I think I mentioned that there are a few trigger warnings for this book, for sexual assault and also domestic violence. So just something that I wanted to mention if you are thinking of reading this book. But I would really recommend this one if you're looking for a smutty romance book that's going to get you out of a reading slump. Then this definitely worked for me. I think this is actually the first book in a series, but it's a series of companion novels, so each book follows a different guy within this hockey team, and I definitely want to read the rest of the series, but I think I'm going to save them for when I am in a reading slump, because yeah, really enjoyed this one a lot more than I was expecting. I have also now made a start on the final book that I'm going to be reading in this reading vlog, and that is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. So this is quite a new release. I actually have an arc of this through NetGalley, but I think it came out a few weeks ago, and I have read 2 books so far by Emily Henry. I've read Beach Read and People We Meet on Vacation, and I enjoyed both of them. I think I enjoyed Beach Read more because that was enemies to lovers or rivals to lovers, whereas People We Meet on Vacation is friends to lovers, and I've recently discovered that friends to lovers just doesn't quite work for me. It's not my favourite trope, but I had heard that this was meant to be another rivals or enemies to lovers, or hate to love at least, but so far I'm not really getting that feeling. I mean, the 2 main characters supposedly don't like each other, but I mean, they don't hate each other, or at least that's not how it's coming across to me. The main character is a woman called Nora, who's a literary agent, and she has gone away on vacation with her younger sister, who's 5 months pregnant, and her younger sister's name is Libby, I think. But basically Libby and Nora's relationship hasn't been the best recently, so this trip is a way of them trying to reconnect. Libby thinks that Nora needs to learn how to relax and push herself out of her comfort zone, because she's described as being a bit of an ice queen, and I do think actually there's been some quite interesting discussions around that. I don't really know how to explain it, but it talked at one point about how as a woman in business you have to find that balance between being firm enough that you're taken seriously but not so much that people think that you're a bitch. I thought that whole discussion was really interesting. I think what I'm struggling with at the moment is that there hasn't really been much to the relationship in this book, considering that it's a romance. I feel like it's focused a lot more on Libby and Nora's relationship, which I do like. I do like books that talk about sister relationships. Nora is very protective of Libby because their mom passed away when they were younger, and so I do like that. It's not quite what I was expecting so far. I'm about, I think, 40% of the way through, and what I want from this second half is to get to know Charlie a bit better. So Charlie is the love interest in this situation. Him and Nora know each other through work, and so far I don't really have a grasp of what his personality is, so I'm hoping that we see more of that in this second half. So I'm now about 60-something% of the way through Book Lovers, and this isn't going to be a 5 stars. It's not giving me that 5-star feeling. I think it might end up being somewhere between a 3 and a 4, but obviously it depends on how it ends. The one thing I do love about Emily Henry's books is the way that she writes humour and how there's just some lines that are so witty and funny, and it makes me laugh, or it at least makes me smile. I don't know whether grumpy is an actual trope because you have Grumpy Sunshine, but this is grumpy. I do think that Nora and Charlie are well suited to each other, but I'm not really feeling much from their relationship. I feel like the book is mostly focusing on the sister relationship, which is fine, but this is a romance book, and so I wanted more from them. I feel like there's been a lot of telling and not enough showing. I think also the pace just isn't quite working for me, so their relationship doesn't feel like a slow burn, it feels quite rushed. I don't know, I'm finding it really hard to explain, but yeah, I'm not hating Nora and Charlie together. I think I just wanted to feel more invested in them as a couple. So I am here to wrap up this vlog because I finished reading Book Lovers by Emily Henry, and I think I'm gonna give this like a 3.5 stars. It's a difficult one because I think as a whole it gave me 4-star feelings, but as a romance I just didn't really feel that invested. I felt like the romance was secondary to the sister plot, and I never really warmed to Libby, who's Nora's sister. I think to really love this book you have to really feel invested in the sister relationship, and I just wanted more from Nora and Charlie. I didn't care about Libby and all of that drama. I did like the ending though, and how everything came together. I thought it was quite clever. There were things that I didn't see come in, and I like it when a book surprises me, especially a romance book, because I feel like romances in general can be quite predictable, which doesn't bother me because I know that going into them. But there were parts of this book that did take me by surprise and that I hadn't predicted. I do actually think that this book would make a pretty good movie, and I liked how this book showed the publishing process, and it talked a lot about publishing, because I do like books like that. I like books that are about writers or that are about the publishing industry, so I think that if you like that too, then you'd find parts of this book really interesting. I felt like it was putting a twist on popular romance tropes. For example, Nora identifies more as being the villain within a story rather than being a heroine, and yeah, it felt unique. I'm probably gonna give this like a 3.5 stars. It's not my favourite book that I've read for this vlog. It's probably actually my least favourite Emily Henry book that I've read so far, but I'm glad that I read it, and I think that a lot of people would enjoy this. It has got quite good reviews on Goodreads that I could see, so take my opinion with a pinch of salt, because like I've said a few times in this vlog, I have been in a little bit of a reading slump recently, but I think I'm clawing my way out of it now, which is good timing because this weekend is Becca's 48-hour bookoplathon readathon, which I'm really excited about, and I'm hoping to read lots of books and yeah, hopefully get out of this reading slump. I am going to end the reading vlog here though, so thanks for watching. If you've made it this far, let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. And yeah, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and click subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Bye!